It's been so long since I've covered a Steven Spielberg film on my YouTube channel since I think it was Ready Player One back in 2018. And about 4 years since I've watched and praised the immaculate and deeply personal The Fabelmans, a semi-autobiographical film that is based upon Steven Spielberg's adolescence and his early pursuits of becoming a filmmaker. And over the course of his life, what a filmmaker Steven Spielberg has become. Look, I like Steven Spielberg a lot. Easily one of the most top 10 influential filmmakers, not only in the modern era of Hollywood, but even in film in general. I mean, this is the man that brought dinosaurs back to life on the big screen in one of the most groundbreaking science fiction films ever made. The same man who would create some of the greatest pictures the world has ever seen. Through his insane attention to detail, his fascination with history, and his euphoric, limitless imagination that is able to pull audiences in with an unforgettable story. However, like many legendary titans of exemplary and prestigious filmmaking, Spielberg is not perfect. For every masterpiece that Spielberg is able to unfold to the general audience and film aficionados, he's also the same man that got us The Lost World, Hook, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He contributed to the horrendous ending of the War of the Worlds adaptation, and though he hasn't made the following movies, he still had a major hand into the production and script writing process of the Jurassic World movies. But usually some of his past maladies can be all forgiven with just one award-nominated film or two that can even warm the iciest of hearts. And you know me, my heart is as cold as a glacier. In his latest project, Disclosure Day, Spielberg decides to return to one of his more familiar and famous routes, making movies about aliens, the extraterrestrial life form, the unknowns of outer space, and how humanity would react to such a phenomenon. And I think it's about time that Steven Spielberg heads back to making blockbusters again. We haven't had one since Ready Player One. But as much as I was looking forward to this movie since watching the teasers for the very first time while watching a very, very boring Super Bowl, but at least the Seahawks won, so that's a plus. It gives me no pleasure to admit to all of my fellow viewers that as much as I am a fan of Steven Spielberg, Disclosure Day is one of his weakest movies. Is it better than some of the worst offenders such as Crystal Skull and The Lost World? I can say so. But to the many out there that describe this discordant, unbridled lunacy that masquerades as an alien espionage thriller as one of Spielberg's finest outings, they need to take off the rose-colored glasses and just admit to themselves that what they are actually treated with is a completely bewildering and lackadaisically, thematically incoherent film that has very little to say about communication and things that are driving us apart, empathy, what the existence of aliens means for humanity itself, our understanding of the universe, even religion. Our film is set on the brink of World War III, for some reason that the film never seems keen to justify. Noah Scanlon, CEO of the Vortex Corporation, totally not an evil-sounding name, hatches a manhunt to find the whistleblowers responsible for stealing alien technology and recorded files that date events all the way back to the Roswell incident to now. One of these whistleblowers is cybersecurity expert Daniel Kellner, who was working alongside his girlfriend Jane and former Vortex director Hugo Wakefield to deliver this information for all the public to see. While being scoured by Vortex, Daniel comes across video footage of meteorologist Margaret Fairchild communicating in a language that only he could understand. Could it be that they're both connected in some way? What will them reuniting mean for humanity and aliens alike? The problem with the screenplay that is laid front and center is that the reason why our protagonists go so far as they do and succeed as well as they do is because Noah Scanlon and the Vortex Corporation, the nefarious government entity established to prevent the disclosure of extraterrestrial life to the point of almost killing our heroes and other whistleblowers, they make a bag of rocks look like monolithic pillars of wisdom. They are so dumb that I literally was making my own riff tracks impression of the film itself, especially in the scene where Daniel is trying to sneak into a vehicle so he can rescue Jane in the safe house. You have him walking towards the safe house on an open field where between him and the house there are Vortex agents that are standing there about to enter the building. Daniel is stumbling around while trying to sneak behind an old wooden fence, and nobody hears him. All a single Vortex agent had to do was just turn around and go, "What was that? Did you see something?" Even with the amount of resources that they have, they can't even do anything right. The beginning of the movie has Daniel surrounded by Ward X agents and Noah Scanlon, and has his girlfriend hostage. Daniel threatens the agents that if they fire on him, he'll do something dangerous with one of the 3 alien devices that he happens to have in his possession. So after they let him go, do they send agents to track him down and spy on him? Well, this is Ward X after all, so the answer is no. By the time that Daniel drives off with Jane, they are lost for good, which leaves me to pose a simple question. Or two. Hugo's primary important asset is Daniel, who is using burner phones and has a stolen vehicle to get him to the safe house, or before going to the safe house, to a nunnery. With all the surveillance and satellites that they have at their disposal, how come Ward X and the FBI aren't able to track down their stolen vehicle's license plate, Hugo's Bluetooth cell phone earpiece, and his employees who all have iPhones? In addition to this, Ward X also has one of the 3 alien MacGuffins. The revealing part about the device that they have is that they can do whatever they want to another person just by looking at an image of them. This device is able to mind control and manipulate someone's actions. They can communicate to them as if they are already there at the location that our heroes are currently hiding at. Scanlon tried it with Jane. He can mind control her, interrogate her intensely, control almost every part of her body, and makes her try to stab Daniel while he's trying to outrun the Ward X agents in a car chase. So, why couldn't they have done this in the first place with Daniel and one of the 12 whistleblowers, including Hugo, whose pictures they also have in their database? They could have used this valuable piece of alien technology to control someone's mind and find the location that Hugo is at, and prevent them from any means of unveiling highly confidential information to the public. And they choose only to do that in the 3rd act of the movie. Keep in mind that this screenplay was written by David Koepp, but the story is credited to Steven Spielberg. Also, if Margaret is so important to Ward X, and Ward X is also an integral part to the United States government, how come all they send to ask her for information and to capture her was 2 people? Shouldn't there be additional backup at the hospital to make sure that they don't easily escape? Which they in fact do. Or how about that time that Margaret arrives at a base where Daniel is captured and somehow manages to escape with Daniel just by tricking the agents and blowing their minds by using the power of empathy and cloaking herself as a family relative? You would think that they would take the logical approach and suspect that what she's doing is a trick and they are using it as a means to escape, leading them to tase or knock her out cold. But of course, this is Ward X, so they don't do that. And then we get to the penultimate scene of the movie. Yes, there are spoilers. Ward X has our heroes completely surrounded. There is no hope in sight for them. They have completely shut down the power and shut down the backup generator at the news studio, so that way they cannot release this important information to the public. They just allow someone to give Margaret one of the 3 alien devices, turning everything on within the news studio, giving the heroes the upper hand. And when all of this is happening, does Noah Scanlon decide to shoot her, or have someone else shoot her, or shoot the alien for the good of humanity as they are on the brink of World War III? No, he just goes, well, guess I lost, and just gives up and allows our heroes to enact their plan. Let alone the incompetence of Ward X and Noah Scanlon's inconsistent motivations and procrastinating strategies that would have otherwise end this film in the blink of an eye. The number of plot holes and unexplained nonsense throughout the whole movie is mind-blowing, to say the least. But it shouldn't really matter because the trailers, the other ones at least, pretty much spoil the movie itself. What was the point of having this movie take place before the beginning of World War III? What purpose of us being on the brink of a foreign war with Korea and Russia have anything to do with exposing government secrets about intelligent life beyond the stars? The answer is, well, There is no answer. What was even the point of the crop circles manifesting themselves in the middle of the field? It doesn't really lead up to anything, and it was purely designed for the trailer. How is Hugo able to keep secret and nab a alien that is being kept captive by Wardex and the United States government? Who freaking knows? And at this point, who freaking cares? And the script not only crumbles because of its own narrative incoherence, it also struggles with its own thematic execution. One of the themes that this film tries to hone in on is the aspect of one's own religious beliefs. And according to Spielberg, this would be the film that would challenge and shake the very fabric of Christianity. For the sake of tackling the subject matter, the filmmakers would introduce the character Jane, Daniel's girlfriend and a former nun who left because of her own personal crisis of faith. And with the possibility of aliens existing in our world, her faith in God has been put into question. While the potential is there, on the downside, it doesn't really go anywhere and it is easily resolved. Jane's crisis of faith, the existence of aliens, and how it affects her belief in God gets quickly resolved with just one phone conversation with her former sister superior who works at the nunnery she used to be at. No, really, all it took was just sage advice from her former superior at the nunnery about how the existence of aliens doesn't invalidate the existence of God or Jesus, as we are his best creations on Earth, whereas the aliens are his best creations on another planet. Lest we forget that, as I stated before, the film wants to implement a message about communication and empathy with other people. Why would the message be that we need to show more empathy and communication with other people when A, Daniel and Margaret, as children, have been tricked and abducted by the aliens, who are disguised as horribly CGI animals, and gave them powers beyond their control, and the film wants to present this as if this is mesmerizing when in actuality, it is pretty freaking creepy. B, if the public were to figure out that these aliens were the ones to kidnap and experiment on these children, giving them superpowers, I'm pretty sure that they would not be as friendly to this race of extraterrestrials. And C, does this movie think that the way to prevent the United States, Russia, and Korea from commencing a world war is just simple communication and empathy? And then you get to the, Disclosure Day of Disclosure Day. Now, originally I thought that this scene on its own was extremely captivating on a filmmaking and acting standpoint, and it is for the most part. But in a setting where World War III is about to commence and everyone is still familiar with the existence of AI videos, what makes the movie think that the public would not be skeptical by this and not 100% believe that all of the footage provided is not from a news studio in Kansas City? But then, just as soon as you are clenched into your theater chair and you're bracing for what's about to happen next, and the film is about to set up another exciting or even outright ridiculous payoff, BAM! Directed by Steven Spielberg pops up and the credits roll. Yep, that's it. No payoff to the build-up, no insight as to what the aliens want, no resolution with the characters, no other person's faith is being conflicted with. It just all ends in a way where the filmmakers are like, oh yeah, you thought we were gonna show something important to you? Guess what? Credits. Thank you for the $15, sucker. To be fair with this movie, if I have to offer any kind of redeeming value to it whatsoever, Steven Spielberg's directing and filmmaking prowess is still present and accounted for on a technical standpoint. Despite how erroneous Steven Spielberg and David Koepp's storytelling is, the visual effects are pretty solid some of the time. He's still effective with the storyboarding, and the cinematography is also pretty majestic to look at. If only the film could cut back on the obnoxious and blindingly distracting lens flares. Sunlight from the window, a car's headlight, a flashlight emanating from a person's cell phone. It's so overabundant that J.J. Abrams will look at it and go, hey, you can't do that, Minnie, that's my job. The characters as a whole might be thinly written, but the terrific acting is what picks up some of the slack. Colin Firth hones the solemn, no-nonsense demeanor of Noah Scanlon with ease, and other actors such as Josh O'Connor, Coleman Domingo, and Eve Hewson are also equally adequate. But it's Emily Blunt who steals the spotlight of the movie. She is so phenomenal that it's impossible to describe the commitment that she applies to her character when working on this film. And when combined that with the attention to detail and direction of Steven Spielberg, she is able to make a particular scene with her performance so brilliant, as exemplified in the one-shot take in the new studio, where she randomly changes dialects, she shifts to different accents to communicate with other individuals of another language, and offers empathetic advice to her coworkers without having any idea of how she's doing it or what she's doing. Full disclosure, ladies and gentlemen, I know. Disclosure Day is a misguided movie that acts like it has something meaningful to say, but ultimately fails at making a solid point. It tries to say something about religion and how aliens affect their religious beliefs, and it doesn't even come close to breaching the subject. It wants to leave us thinking about the themes of government corruption, communication, and empathy. Yet all we were left thinking after watching the movie was, why did Steven Spielberg spend $115 million on this waste of resources? That being said, I still believe that Spielberg has some filmmaking magic left in the tank. He's not a total loss as a director. I mean, he would have to make like a really atrocious 0 out of 5 movie before I realized, oh yeah, he's a total loss and he should take the red eye out of Hollywood. But in the case of this film, this is just a swing and a miss. Hopefully with Spielberg's next project, which I heard was a Western, hopefully he can give us a home run for the ages. My name is Luke Nukem, and you, my friends, have been blown away.